Your sister and I am going to go
Yeah.
on because I get to introduce a very incredible woman. And we're going to go right to that. You guys are just, I know because I can feel my cup is getting full. Like, are you guys feeling like good stuff? It's almost like layering on layering. Like, are you taking notes? Like, I'm taking notes. I got papers everywhere. Dr. Mary talked. I'm like, ooh, she reminded me of Love Song from Simple Minds. I mean, it's just building and building. And you know what? I had the grace of meeting Susan, and we just got into conversation, and it was just kind of one of those things. And you've all had it where when you finish the conversation, you know there's more to be done. You finish that conversation, you know there's more to be done. And it's like, and it just opens and opens and opens, and it's just, and you just never know where it's going to travel. So it was really fun working with Susan on her title, because there's so many things that you could say about Susan, right? So she is an international transformation artist on fire. And you will know when she shares what she does, why we said on fire, because it means two different things. She's going to share with us today from corporate burnout to finding her wild woman. So wild woman on fire. Here's an interesting thing that if you know Susan, you may not know about her, is that she lived in a one-room cabin and bathed in a kitchen sink for 10 years. Haven't had that one yet. Good on you. She has two incredible gifts that she's going to share. She is going to give everybody tips on how to keep your creativity alive. This woman is a very creative woman who also has a very creative husband. I can't even imagine what goes on in those bubbles at home. And her bigger gift, Angel, you're gonna love this. It's worth 1,262. And it is a custom pendant. So a woman can wear her personal story close to her heart. And that's what this woman's art's all about. And her favorite music artist is a Toronto guitarist. And the album is called Nomad by Jesse Cook. Susan, thank you so much for showing up today. I love your background. Thank you for coming on. And please do share with us, Wild Woman. What's your story all about?
Yeah, thank you very much. Good thing I've got a pen here, because I'm just writing down all kinds of nuggets. So thank you everyone for sharing your heart, sharing your wisdom. And it's such an honor to be an author coming up in 262 and a speaker as well. And I'm going to talk about, at age 10, I lost my voice. And that became the catalyst for me to find ways to help women express their voice. Because here's my belief. I believe that when we fully express ourselves, we inspire others to do the same. And also there's a peace that comes over us deep inside, and that allows us to create peace out into the world, and that makes the world a better place. So it's an inside job, and you've heard that from many different people. At 10 years ago, I lost my wild woman to a devastating corporate burnout, which if you talk to any coach is going to tell you it's a spiritual awakening as well. And that is what it's been the catalyst for me to be a transformation artist. And what I mean by wild woman, I'll give you my term of reference. That's your mojo, your joie de vivre, you're seeing the potential in yourself and other people, and one idea leads to another, and you haven't even had breakfast yet. And it's the joy and the enthusiasm. It's your juiciness. So this is a really important part of your entire life, is to have this part of you intact, because it's what creates and births innovation. Innovation is something new that has never been in the world before. And if you tell a story, you have any type of service or creative process that you share, the world has never seen that before. That is innovation. And you need her with you. So I'm going to do a little about my journey as an artist, and do it within unconditional love, because it's Unconditional Love Month. So I've never told my story in this way before. So here goes. Have you ever had an image of yourself as a child where you knew it was your true, authentic self? So that's me at age 10. I'm flying over a mud puddle, and if I was moving, I was happy. If I had every color of crayon, chalk, or paint and a piece of paper, super, super happy. If I was lying on my back with my feet up on a tree, I would watch a daddy long-legged spider crawl up a tree for hours. And if you gave me sparkles, I was over the moon. So that was my real self, and I can see it, feel it, touch it, smell it. And that was my real heart, my heart's desire. I have another memory at age 10, and that's my last day of school in grade 5. What happened is I was painting for my grade 5 teacher, the life stages of a bee. And that's the last time I remember having a paintbrush in my hand until I was 44. Now, at 44, my pilot light, my soul pilot light was starting to flicker. It was that low. And I had a deep sadness that I couldn't even express at the time. And I knew deep inside that that 10-year-old was calling me back. I had a very robust academic and professional life at the 44. I had done education and taught and done anything and everything to do with dental hygiene. I fell in love with teaching, and I fell in love with oral microbiology. But it was time to do something else, and I was terrified to go back and get that 10-year-old and rewrite that message, because I hadn't done anything for such a long time. What if it was just a kid pipe dream? What if it wasn't the real me? My husband did something very special for me at that point. We had been married 8 years in a very loving relationship. He put his arms around me physically and metaphorically. Sorry, it's just such a special moment. And he said, I'll love you until you love yourself. Because you know what? He was an artist. Other people were an artist, but I wasn't. That part of me was put away in a closet at age 10, because I got parental and society and school messages about who I should be, how I should act, what I should do. And heartbroken, I put that part of me away until I was 44. And so I didn't believe him. He said, I saw that you were an artist on our first date, but it had no credibility with me. So we had started to, he said, I see the potential, and that's the definition of unconditional to me, is under all circumstances, you see the potential in someone and you never waver. I did that for my dental hygiene students. I could see them as hygienists, and I have to tell you, in the first 2 months of the program, they do not see that. They don't believe in themselves at all. I held that faith. I put my metaphorical and energy arms around them. So my husband was doing that for me. But here's the piece that I think about Deborah. Deborah says, women women suck at allowing and asking for help. So here it was my turn to receive and let somebody love me until I love myself. So we started to learn this 6,000-year-old art form called fused glass together. And I'm very happy to be part of such a powerful ancient art that layers glass and then fuses it together. It left the planet 1500 AD. When glass blowing came along, it was more utilitarian, cheaper, faster, and fused glass died and left the planet till the early 1980s. So I'm very happy to be part of bringing that back to students, because I can't help myself. I'm a teacher, and I teach glass workshops, been doing that for a long time. And I know how to set up a glass studio. I set it up like a dental lab because that means it works really, really well. I know how to teach psychomotor skills. I teach glass art. I used to teach scaling. So all of that came together, but it was time for me to show up and I was terrified. So I would come back for the next 2 years. I drove my husband nuts. We set up a studio and I would come back and say, should I put the red here? Do you think I should use yellow or orange? Well, should these 3 points be over here? I think there's too many. And he would just smile and help me with technical issues, but he'd say, go back to the studio. Your own style will come. Your own way will come. You know what to do. You know where to put the lines. You know what to do, colors to use. And I would go back sometimes in tears, and I'm never going back there again, but I would. And 2 years later, something happened one day, and I believed that I was an artist. Not just believed, I knew I was an artist. It was like a small voice inside of me. And after the drama I had, I thought it would be the heralding of angels if I ever owned that I was an artist, but it wasn't. It was very quiet, very deep. I've never looked back since. And I know that I'm an artist. And believe me, I think my husband's happier than I am, because you know what? Self-doubt is really tiring. So I give that gift to students as well, because I have a number of people that come to my workshops, and one woman will say to the other, I came to keep her company. She's the creative, artistic one, not me. But people have sometimes, they're in a different stage of their life. They've left up the full-time job and they're wanting to discover more about who they are and what their next steps are. Just 8 weeks ago, I had a student sitting at the stool when we were to start working after the demonstration, and she had her head down and she was sobbing. And I felt the fear, the doubt, the lost moments, how scared she was. I knew exactly what to say. I knew exactly what to do. And she made a beautiful piece just as nice as her friend. And I have to tell you, it's an Oprah moment. I get up in the morning when I see that glow on a person's face, because they look at their piece and they see that they made something as creative as their friend. They can no longer for the rest of their life say that they're not creative. They just proved themselves wrong. And that is a moment to cherish. And I'll keep teaching till the day I die, because I'm selfish. I want that Oprah moment, and I want it lots. So 1997 to 2001, my husband and I were selling and doing workshops. We had tourists from all over the world. We were shipping somewhere in North America once a week at that point. And 9/11 occurred. And everything stopped overnight, our sales and our workshops. And I got really scared. So this time I went into the corporate world. Has anyone ever sort of got to the top of a certain mountain and you've achieved something really amazing and you're not done? I went back to the corporate world as an educator and speaker for 12 years. That's when I had the spiritual awakening, to all you coaches out there, and one hell of a burnout. And I lost my wild woman. I got hollowed out, and my joie de vivre, my mojo, that not, I couldn't see potential in the next moment or myself, gone. I would stare at white walls for the first 4 months and cry. And my only relief those first 4 months was going to the therapist. So I went down to the studio. I knew how to show up. I knew how to let somebody love me till I loved myself. And I started playing with small pieces of glass. I was preparing for a large piece because prior to the burnout, I used to do large competition pieces for juried shows. So I was making little pendants, and I put one up on Facebook, and someone said, Susan, that looks like a butterfly wing. And I said, it does? And I looked at it. It was a very crude form of a butterfly. I started studying anatomy of butterflies and butterflies in general, and I started to make little pendants, realizing that it was a symbol of transformation for me, healing, because the butterfly is a universal symbol of healing. And it's, I understand being part of an ancient art, also the ancient aspect of symbology. We needed, it's as old as humans, we needed to anchor ourselves, to help propel us forward, to give us strength and courage. And so that's what I was doing. So I went to some shows and I put these pendants out. Next thing, and I have to tell you one other thing about how I work. I found my style. And that is that I play 5 songs and they have to be in a particular order. And as it happens to be Jesse Cook's Nomad. And those 5 songs cannot change. And that opens me up to being in spirit. So I create from in spirit and alignment instead of my head. And I put out, and that's how I put energy into my pieces. So I put them out on tables and women would take their fingers to a particular one. And what I do as well is I hate working alone. So I would put them up on Facebook and people would name my pieces and the perfect name would happen. And I'd hear these women and they couldn't help themselves. They'd touch a certain one and they go, it's the color, it's the name, it's the shape. And it's reminding me of a time in my life when I went in a different direction and I wasn't planning at all, or I'm heading in this direction and this is celebrating where I'm going. And so I was fascinated by the stories that I was hearing and so elevated by that. Well, guess what? My wild woman started to come back. I started to feel juicy. I started to say, what if, new possibilities. And through some coaching, one of my coaches at the time, wonderful woman, she said, why don't you reverse engineer this process? So she said, why don't you create, you hate creating alone, why don't you create with a woman and put her story in the glass? So I had my first customer, thought it was a great idea. I had my first customer. It was an Amazon best-selling author, and she was about to publish her next book. And she had very specific what she wanted in the pendant. I do a video of what people want, and I do a vision board in glass where because the colors have meaning for them. What emotions do they want in the piece? And I do the video so I can see their face and feel their energy. So what I do is I play those 5 songs, and then I play the video 3 times. Then I play the songs 5 songs 1 more time. And then I can put the music on shuffle. And when I'm doing this creation, I cannot listen to a podcast. It can't be words, it has to be music. And for me to flow, and I move around the studio a lot. I don't pre-sketch, I don't pre-think a design. So I started to create this woman's piece, and she had a publishing deadline date, and she wanted a close-up of the pendant to be on the cover of that book. As I'm creating, I got in my own way. I started getting my head into the people-pleasing place. And I said to myself, what's happening? I have unconditional love for my art and for my process. I own this. And I put my tweezers down and I walked out for 3 weeks and didn't come back. And I came back when the energy was, when her energy was there, when I could open up properly and be in spirit, because I'm a conduit for her personality, her essence, not mine. I came back, I created this beautiful piece for her. She was so happy. I put the video of that particular person because she was my first. It's actually on Facebook, and our WhatsApp is her interview in particular. I missed the book deadline date, and that's okay. I ended up making the workbook date, and I don't know if you can see this, but there's the I Am book and my close-up of her pendant on that. But that was okay if I didn't. So I've learned how to do that, and that's unconditional love for my art and for me. And the next is, what next? It's very important for me to help women find their voice. And it's very important to me that I be very clear about how I embody spirit and I do this heart conscious work. There's more though. What about doing more and not just glass, and making my one-of-a-kind designs more accessible to others? Many different steps along the way. But my niece Megan, she said, Auntie Susan, for a birthday present for a friend, I'd love to give your one-of-a-kind design, but I don't necessarily want to give a pendant. So I started thinking about, well, what if it's on a scarf, or it's on a journal, or it's on a tote bag? So my husband, who knows Photoshop well, and a professional photographer, 4 years ago, we got together and I started to learn how to capture the air bubbles in the glass, the depth of those 4 layers, because glass has a richness of color that is not seen anywhere else. Like any art form, each one has its magic. And I wanted a more accessibility, more sharing of what I do from my heart. So I started doing that, and now I have all kinds of fashion accessories and so on that are on my store, that you can see what I've done with the glass. And one of the ways that you can see what I've done is what you're seeing behind me, my backdrop, is an image of one of my pieces of glass. So next is to just love myself unconditionally and put my voice out into the world, which is to tell all of you that I want to collaborate with fashion designers, with interior designers, with designers I haven't even thought of, do the custom pendant work, but why not do it for a scarf or for wallpaper or something to meet the needs of a particular client? Because I love working with other people. I love collaborating. It's just how I'm wired. So my wish is that I wanted to give you some tips to help boost your creativity and your wild woman, and get her and make sure that she doesn't take a long hike and not invite you. So that's your free download from me, and there's more stories and more points in that download than what I've had time to talk about today. So there's new possibilities in all ways for my art and for my business. My wild woman is absolutely thrilled, and I'll use everything I have learned so far to fully embody becoming an entrepreneur, because that's my next hoping of that quiet place, or the trombones of I totally own that piece. So that's my next step. And my parting message for you is, you have the courage to unconditionally love yourself, stay true to who you really are, and allow others to love you until you love yourself in any new way that you need to. And nourish that wild woman and pay your respects to her. She's really, really helpful. And remember, you really can fly. Namaste.
Oh, Susan, that was amazing. What a journey that you took us on, from being a young girl, the travel that it took. And I'm sure that there was times in your experience, whether you were doing the dental hygienic work, to the artist, to back to the corporate, to here, where you had to, like Annie talked this morning, Annie shared this morning about the 15-year journey to self-love, right? Like the 15-year journey to self-love, how we find ourselves in each, as Angel talked about earlier with her gentleman that's writing the book, with each season of our life, with each season of our life. And you took us through each season so elegantly, and that you're not finished. And I think that's what happens when you find your wild woman. So Angel, I'm going to ask you that in a minute, but here you find your wild woman, and you are at a different season in your life, and you are still looking to go to that next level and expand yourself. So Angel, I'm going to throw it over to you a little bit, because I know that you know about that wild woman, and you're right. Like when you tap into it, it gets pretty expansive. Like when I called for my moment to Angel and went, oh, we're going to do a book on 262, and we start wild womaning together. And I said, we need to have a third person in here to go, whoa, whoa. Stop. But Angel, have you had a wild woman moment?
Well, I have them with you regularly. I'll tell you what, if Deb calls you and says, hey, I've got an idea,
Hang up.
just know, right? You could be walking 8 marathons in a couple of days. You could be putting on a book project with 262 women. You could be taking on a project of epic proportions, but you absolutely jump in and say yes. And I love how she talked about don't let your wild woman go on a hike without you. One of my challenges, I guess, things that I struggle with is I can just work. Like I can just, get my head down and just stay in work mode. I love what I do. I'm good at it. I love the people I work with. I can get really creative. And if I'm not careful, my life can get really out of balance. And girl, right, can get put on the shelf. And so I love just kind of bringing it back to like what is that wild woman inside of you, and letting other people like pour into you and love on you, even if you're not feeling it, for yourself. And so I don't know, we're all our wild women out here, right? Like maybe we, maybe I just have a toe, like when you get hot and you just dip out your foot in out of the sheet at night, right? Just your foot out, like almost that's all I've got her out. Like it's just dipping my foot out of under the sheet. But we need all of the wild woman to come out, because that's right. That's the little girl inside of us. That's who we are. Like we all have, honestly, we all have right inside of us all the skills, right? Everything that we need. We need to come together and have support and invite other women to be our wild women with us. But we really have it. If we trust that wild woman inside of us, she's gonna invite us to the really cool parties, right? And help us to get some really fun stuff done. And that's where the smile on our face, and that's where we can serve others in our highest space. So I don't know, I'm just inspired. I'm inspired to be my wild woman. And I love that she uses the word juicy, right? When she's talking. We just need to be a little juicier, I think, every single day, and find ways to tap into it. And what a beautiful expression with the glass art. Like, how many of you want a wild woman pendant now? We need like our wild woman like design. See, merchandise. And now we could
Now we're getting into merch. Okay, now we're getting.
yeah.